this is an edition where you get to dance, you get to sing, you get to brush back and be fully entertained. We are coming to you from Mariah for the Mariah Old Time Wedding in the Tobago Heritage Festival 2023. Of course, this is a reenactment of what weddings on our island once were. This is going to be a great episode as we feature the Tobago Heritage Festival 2023. Come along with us. I'm Davia Chambers. In our stories, we highlight Lekoto folktales and superstitions, the Black Rock Sea Festival, and Emancipation Day celebrations 2023. Stay with us. Let's Talk Tobago. We'll be right back.
It's everything about the people.
Come out and face the people and them and talk whatever in their mind to talk.
Signal Hill, Patience Hill Electoral District. It's your turn. The THA Executive Council is coming to meet with you as we continue our district town hall meeting series. We invite you to come out in your numbers at the Patience Hill Community Center on Tuesday, 8th August at 6:30 p.m. as the Executive Council members give updates on existing and upcoming programs and projects. You also get the opportunity to share your concerns and ask questions. So join us from 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, August 8th at the Patience Hill Community Center for the Executive Council's District Town Hall meeting. People of Signal Hill, Patience Hill, Spring Garden, and the Spring Garden Trace, Orange Hill Road, Whim Estate, and Cemetery Street, Lambo, this meeting is for you. Remember, your voice matters.
And there could be no Tobago Heritage Festival without the Lekoto folktales and superstitions. And it was a very entertaining night. But don't take my word for it. Have a look at this story.
The Lekoto folktales and superstitions has always been a major highlight of the Tobago Heritage Festival. Despite the rains, many came out in their numbers to witness the retelling of our cultural traditions. This year's presentation, titled The Duke of Lekoto, Crave All, Lose All, was presented by the Lekoto Close Connection Cultural Club.
I have a sword in my hand, help me to use it now. I have a sword in my hand, help me to use it now. I'm going away to watch and pray. To me. I have a sword in my hand, help me to use it now. I have a sword in my hand, help me to use it now.
I'm really enjoying the show. It really brings back the feeling of the community. It is a good cultural show. I brought some friends here who's also experiencing it for the first time, and they're having a spectacular time.
I would say that I am definitely enjoying the production tonight. You have a little bit of drama, you have we twang. So it is really interesting, and it kind of like reminds us of how things used to be a long time, because I could tell you, I remember getting my cut tail as well back then, right? So it is really nice, and I think we should definitely continue with this.
I'm Kian Walker Hazel for Let's Talk Tobago.
For this story, you've got to grab your bottle, your spoon, and a drink of choice, because right now we head to Scarborough for the Rum Shop Lime, which has returned to the calendar of the Tobago Heritage Festival. Enjoy!
In its 36th year, the Tobago Heritage Festival has reintroduced on its calendar the Rum Shop Lime. And oh boy, was it an experience! The experience showed how the rum shop was a meeting place for adults in the village long ago. The business of the village was aired by special characters over food and alcohol, bottles, spoon, and a drink of your choice, where one can be sure to hear all about Tobago village affairs.
Tonight has been dubbed the Rum Shop Lime. It was really designed to revisit the days, the ancient traditional days of that, where the rum shop was like a university, in sort where you are just going to this place and meet everybody and anybody doing anything and perhaps more under the influence of alcohol or influenced by alcohol in its presence.
Yeah, I come every year for the heritage. It'd be nice, you know what I mean? So I love it. I like some of the old time stuff, some of the new time stuff is a good mix. Because some of the youth now don't know about the old time stuff, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's good to kind of reintroduce a little bit more into the community.
I don't know nothing about, like I said, I don't know nothing about Tobago, and I enjoy, you know, the little I get so far.
I'm Crystal George for Let's Talk Tobago.
The Mariah Old Time Wedding attracts hundreds of spectators every year. And in true Tobago style, come let we go, because there's no other experience quite like this one. We're here at the Mariah Old Time Wedding 2023, and I have with me two visitors to our beautiful island of Tobago. This is Vintage and Naraya, and they are from Bermuda. I just want you to tell us, how have you been enjoying the Tobago Heritage Festival?
I feel that it's been very eye-opening and a great experience to experience how your culture is set up, and it's been very nice. Everybody has been welcoming and very inclusive.
One of the best trips I've taken so far. I just love it here. The music, the food, everything is just nice. The people are nice as well.
I mean, I saw you in the back dancing.
Yeah.
So we are here with Lyndon Lashley at the Mariah Old Time Wedding. We've reached down to the recreational ground where the wedding reception takes place. Now, he has been involved in this festival for over 5 years. Lyndon, what keeps you coming back?
Just the love of the arts. Just the love of the arts. We see in as heritage is something that needs a lot more young people in it. What other way to get more young people in than to have those who are just bridging that gap between the old and the young?
And you know, I must ask, how are you enjoying this year's festivities?
Ooh, boy, watch now. If Olia was not here, Olia miss out. If it wasn't here, you miss out.
They definitely missed out.
That alone says everything. If it wasn't here, you miss out.
Beside me is Assemblyman Area Representative for Mason Hall Mariah, Assemblyman Ian Pollard. Now, Mr. Pollard, you have spoken about monetizing the Mariah Old Time Wedding. Do you mind going into details for us at this time?
The Village Council of Mason Hall Mariah need to come together to have certain aspects of the Heritage Festival monetized so that those persons from the cruise ship could come and visit here and get some aspect of the Heritage Festival on a 1 hour, 1 hour and a half stop, because it's high time we start to monetize the business of the Heritage Festival.
And how have you enjoyed today's festivities?
Oh, it's been great. I'm glad to see that the young persons are intricately involved, and this is how we pass on our history.
How are you enjoying the festivities?
Beautiful. I've been to several of the shows, as many as I could, and I mean, I like it. I love it. The Mariah wedding is especially nice because I like the dances that they do and all the traditions coming on, and especially the fact that so many of the dancers, participants are so young. It is so good so that they can carry on the tradition.
Is it the first time Mason Hall New Edition folk performances are part of the production?
Yes, because Mason Hall New Edition used to be just dancers, but now they asked me to come and be the artistic director, so I do the music and movement. The group rarely belongs to, the leader is Mrs. Erlene Crooks Ned, and she invited me to be a part of this group.
Keep watching Let's Talk Tobago.
The Tobago Harvest Experience has been added to the Tobago Heritage Festival calendar 2023. We take you to the village right now.
This is Speyside. All are we and who all are we be. This is being Tobagonian. You know, this is what it's about. Sharing and having a society that cares for each other, and we just give. You know, even the strangers within our gates we give. So Tobago just keep being beautiful.
Nestled in the beautiful east side lies the village of Speyside. And for the first time, they incorporated their harvest into the Tobago Heritage Festival. And well, basically, it was all about giving thanks, then on to the eats and drinks.
The Speyside Harvest Festival is actually the only harvest festival that always occurred during the heritage period. And so we just decided this year, since it naturally occurs during the same period, that we should add it to the calendar. And it's really a celebration of Thanksgiving. It's an opportunity for the church and the community to come together and to give God thanks for all of the year's blessings. And so between last year, July, and now, God has been good to us.
It's a unique opportunity, it's something unique. I mean, I had experiences with friends from Trinidad and they find this harvest phenomenon out of this world because
when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to the Tobago Updates Morning Show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. As we continue to give God thanks for life, I am Julian Ski.
And I am Adana Combi. Indeed, a great day to give God thanks and praise for being in the land of the living. Julian, what's up? How have you been? What's going on?
It's a good kind of morning, good start, good start to the day, and we continue to look forward to that productive period. It's also Thursday, so there are levels of excitement quite naturally on Tuesday. So not much happening on my end, but we continue to observe the developments happening here within Trinidad and Tobago, and more specifically in Tobago. Quite interesting at that. We saw yesterday the two members of Parliament would have kept a press conference speaking to the issue once again of Caribbean Airlines. So very interesting developments as we continue to go along. Hopefully we'll get a chance to be able to discuss that in some more details.
That's right.
All right.
So we head on over, guys, to the news in 90 seconds.
The news in 90 seconds is brought to you by Flow, working for you on Tobago's newest fiber network.
Thank you, Julian and Adana. Here is your news in 90 seconds for Thursday, 24th August 2023. Speaking at a press conference last evening at the Central Administrative Building in Shore Park, Minister for Sports and Community Development and MP for Tobago West, Shamfa Kajo, highlighted at the press conference that despite the call for a dedicated airline for Tobago, previous attempts of such were unsuccessful. She emphasized that although the domestic route for inter-island travel might not be profitable, it remains a crucial service. Though the government intervened to halt the pilots' industrial action, which was executed covertly, ensuring their return to work, discussions are ongoing with Caribbean Airlines to provide refunds and credit to the international travelers, encouraging their return to Trinidad and Tobago. The Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation would be hosting a public consultation today at the ground floor of the Shore Park Cultural Complex at 5 p.m. This consultation is a collaborated effort geared to the planning and preparation of the upcoming Tobago October Carnival. The aim is to provide insights and inputs into crucial matters such as traffic management, security arrangements, and safety protocols. And finally, the West Indian Tobacco Company Limited, WITCO, and the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union, SWTU, the West Indian Tobacco Company Limited, WITCO, and the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union, SWWTU, have agreed on a 6% wage increase for both hourly rated workers and monthly rated staff. The signing of the collective bargaining agreement took place on July 28 at WITCO's head office in Champlain. The company said in a news release that the negotiations occurred over 2 months with meaningful and respectful engagement and covered the period 2023 to 2025. And that concludes your news in 90 seconds.
Tobago, after freeness is more speed and better TV. Get a free Samsung smartphone and free installation, plus 200 megabits per second, Paramount Plus, and more for only $299 with a select 200 plan from Flow. Visit online at discoverflow.co today.
Welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show, and at this point we head on into our birthday segment, which is sponsored by KFC.
This is your birthday shoutouts on Tobago Updates, sponsored by KFC.
And celebrating a birthday today is Stacia Lindsay. Happy birthday, Stacia. We hope that you have a beautiful birthday today, just as beautiful as you are. Happy birthday to you from all of us here at the Tobago Updates Television.
And on screen, we have Osaze George. And this is a happy 18th birthday going out to Osaze George, the baby of my 3 babies. And in case you missed it, folks, yes, this is the daughter of Rhea and Oswald George. Love from your daddy, Oswald, from mommy, Rhea, your siblings, granddad, and the entire family and your friends. And I also want to send a birthday shout out going out to you, Osaze. We trust that you continue to enjoy the birthday celebrations. Make sure mommy and daddy go all out with this celebration for you. It's 18.
That's right. And also celebrating a birthday today is Assemblyman Kelvon Morris. Today is your birthday, and we wish you a happy birthday. And we pronounce God's blessings upon your life, and we pray that you have a beautiful, wonderful celebration today as you celebrate your birthday.
Birthday greetings going out there. Minority Leader, very official there in terms of the big House of Assembly, a photo. Wishing you all the best on your birthday today.
Birthday shoutouts on Tobago Updates, sponsored by KFC.
From the experts that created the Zinger sandwich comes the KFC Crispy Barbecue Zinger.
The only one I see is you.
Cheddar cheese, crispy onions, the most delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, and barbecue sauce. Get ready for a whole new level of flavor.
Yes, and celebrating the big 50 years. And no, this is not a 50th birthday, but rather this is a 50th wedding anniversary. Yes. And we're sending blessings going out to Mr. and Mrs. Roslyn and Hezekiah Wood, certainly making their contribution there and celebrating. In fact, 50th anniversary, and I see the children made it their business, that I saw the nature of the celebration happening across social media.
Yes, that's right.
I wonder if they even know they're on social media.
I wonder. I'm sure they know. I'm sure they know.
Yes, and this is coming from all your children, and they're sending out birthday blessings to you, Ronell, Ruston. Anniversary greetings going out to you, Ronell, Ruston, and also Rhonda, sending out birthday. I keep saying birthday. Anniversary greetings. 50th anniversary. In fact, I trust that they are taking note.
That's right.
In a time like now.
That's right. That's right.
Rhea would say in a time like now, where it is, young persons are not necessarily maintaining that stability, and I'm sure that kind of thing. Yes. Here we have an example for us in terms of 50 years going strong by the grace of God. We want to wish you God's continued blessings. And this morning, I also want to say congratulations and to join the team here at Tobago Updates in sending very best wishes to Luke and Janae, our youth host, Luke James Trim, and I see that he's also online with us this morning, and Janae Campbell. We want to wish you the very best as you continue on that journey heading off to university and further studies. And we know certainly that you will continue to do great things. You all have been able to display and to really contribute significantly here to the Tobago Updates family. And we look forward to hearing great things even in and between the holidays and when you're back. Certainly to continue to make your contribution even as you continue on that upward trajectory in terms of your further studies and education and your growth and development. And certainly this is a challenge, and I know I need not say it, but I know when you head out there, it's not just about the studies, but you will also make your mark at the university campus as well. All right, so certainly congratulations and the very best going out to you all. All right, Adana, who do we have on the rundown this morning?
Right, on the rundown, we are speaking with Caroline Birchwood James, and she's the former president of Tobago Hotel and Tourism Agency. Of course, we're speaking about Caribbean Airlines' impact on Tobago tourism, because it's important. We also speak with former government minister Stephen Cadiz about the Caribbean airline woes. And we continue our conversation. We're speaking with Mr. Alan Stewart. He's the director of TEMA, Tobago Emergency Management Agency, speaking about disaster risk management. And we round up our conversations this morning with Sherwin Allen and KL Baines. They are committee members of the Baines Ball Bash, and that's happening soon, Baines Ball Bash 2. So we'll be speaking with them as well, and that's what we have for you on the program this morning.
Excellent. And a quick shout out to those of you joining us on the live this morning. Pearl Marie Beard, with us Brian Jordan, Afisha McCain, Chanel Felix in the mix. Yes, our youth, I was about to say our youth, who Chanel almost cut off some age there from you. Chanel Felix, one of our who's here at Tobago updates. Selma Lashley, all right, wishing each and every one of you a good morning. Lisa James, QQ Melville on the outside. Thank you all so much for the continued love and support and for choosing the Tobago Updates morning show. We want to say thank you so much. And at this point, folks, we head on over to Tobago in Focus.
For those who have plans to pursue tertiary education or are already enrolled, there is a Department of Advanced Training that aids with grants and bursaries. This department exists within the Division of Education, Research and Technology.
We provide financial assistance to persons who decide to pursue tertiary education or who are pursuing tertiary education. We also provide persons and advisory service to persons who require that type of advice, both financial as well as career guidance. And we try to also provide persons with placement for those persons who would have actually received funding from us. We try to place them in facilitate their placement in jobs.
To access these services, one must apply to an institution of study and the institution must be accredited. In order to be facilitated, the program being pursued must also be accredited.
The idea is that we want to see that the person, whoever the person is and whatever the person, what the institution is, the important thing is that the institution is accredited and the program is accredited. But much more than that, that the person is also pursuing something that would be of benefit to Tobago and in Trinidad and Tobago for that matter.
The assistance being offered by the department has a wide range. Assistance can be anywhere from tuition expenses to living expenses. It can also include meals, transportation, books, and so forth. An applicant needs to state what they require and what the expenses are that need to be covered. The application will then be vetted and it will be determined what assistance you will receive. You can connect with the department via the THA website, tha.dert.gov.tt, or through the division's head office at 299-0781.
Waiting for CXC results and wondering what's next? Or maybe you're looking to switch careers. Learn a skill to jumpstart your career at the NESC Technical Institute. Get qualified for jobs in the energy and industrial sectors or even start your own business. Choose from automotive, electrical, instrumentation, drilling, welding, fabrication, AC refrigeration, IT networking, and more. NESC diplomas are gate approved. Classes begin in September. Visit nesc.edu.tt to apply.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show. Coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. We're heading straight on in to our first segment this morning. And joining us online, we have Caroline Birchwood James, a former president of the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Agent Association. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a
excellent.
pleasure to be here this morning.
Yes. So this morning we're speaking Caribbean Airlines' impact on Tobago's tourism. And I want to get started by asking you very clearly, we saw the situation, the challenges, the significant challenges, I should say, faced quite recently in terms of where a number of pilots apparently fell ill all on the same day or around the same time, and not being able to come out. They have indicated it was never, any kind of strike action or anything of the sort. we saw the kind of impact that this would have had on Caribbean Airlines. Based on your experience, would you say that you've seen this kind of impact with Caribbean Airlines over the years, or has this really been, as they say, the straw that broke the camel's back?
Well, I am laughing a little bit because while you were talking, I'm remembering my experience 42 years ago as a young student having final exam and being caught in this same kind of situation. At that time, it was the air traffic controllers. All planes were grounded, and I had to find myself 6 months pregnant in Trinidad to do final exams. So the more things change, is the more they remain the same. I don't know if this has broken the camel's back because the air traffic controllers had a strike, and it was the same thing that happened between Trinidad and Tobago. There was no movement, and now we have the pilots. Who is next? The mechanics? We don't know. The factor here is that Tobago is left vulnerable. Our citizens, those who are from Tobago, who live in Tobago, who choose to live in Tobago, our visitors who come to Tobago for one reason or the other, most of them for vacationing, our students, business people, and the economy of Tobago. So when these things happen, and so I'm saying it's not only pilots, the air traffic between Tobago and Trinidad, or from between Trinidad and Tobago, if you want to call it, it has to be of national concern, so that when you have things like these, it does not really affect us. But as we are seeing, we are not immune. I also want to say, pilots striking, I wouldn't even say it's a major part of our problem here. You cannot get to Tobago from Trinidad. If you're booked from abroad and you are trying to book via Trinidad to come to Tobago, you can't get the booking. You can't. Sometimes there may be space, but your local counterparts, people living in Tobago, have to go down to the airport and see if they could get a booking for you. So the problem starts when you want to get to Tobago. So whether we have a strike, whether it's an ordinary day like today, any foreigner, anybody outside of Trinidad and Tobago trying to come to Tobago, it is difficult.
I just want to follow on from that very last point. Would you therefore say that that's the fundamental reason why this is receiving national attention, because of the impact on international arrivals? Because the average person traveling between Trinidad and Tobago would tell you this struggle is quite normal in terms of being able to move into at the domestic level. But would you say that because international flights were also affected based on what took place with the pilots, that's why this is now receiving some kind of national attention?
Well, I am not sure. I would say the mass amount of flights, yes, international flights, yes, but you have a situation in Tobago there. And the amount of flights and the backup and the amount of people at both airports trying to come to Tobago and so on would garner some kind of a national concern. We are looking at the economy of Tobago. We are looking at a perennial problem or a daily problem that has now been magnified 100-fold. And we are also looking at a political situation here, where you notice that every political party has had a statement, but nobody is saying anything to push the needle forward to improve the situation. Nobody is saying anything. And that is people like us who are in the tourism, people like us who have to travel. I want to get down next week and so on, because I have business that I postponed for how many months because I can't get a flight. So there's no real comfort to us. There's no real comfort to the economy of Tobago. We can't go to the bank and ask for any monies, any loans, and so on. What are we basing it on when we have problems like this every single day? What do we tell our bankers? How do we assure them that we can pay this loan because we are going to get X amount of people over a certain amount of time when we have this situation here? So that's the reality of it. So I'm not sure that it's because we are international. I'm not sure. It's just that the local situation has been blown up, but we have a problem.
Right. Miss Caroline Bertrude, Miss James, we have been speaking about the issue and the problem and the challenge that we've been facing with the air bridge for forever. I feel as if that's how we've been speaking about it for a very long time. We've identified the challenges, we've identified how it affects our economy, how it affects tourism, how it affects even domestic travel, how it affects our daily lives, because people from Tobago have to go to Trinidad to access services. People from Trinidad want to come to Tobago to enjoy the beautiful, the scenery in Tobago. We have spoken at length about the issues, but what we want to get to is what is the solution? How do we approach the solution? How do we take actionable steps to bring resolve to a situation that has been ongoing for years in and years out? That's what we want to get to. What do you suggest? What is your recommendation? Because as a hotelier, you are also, your industry is also impacted and affected by this shortfall. So what are your recommendations to the policymakers to get this conversation beyond the conversation and into action?
Okay, so I would suggest we have a multi-pronged approach. The first thing is that the management of Caribbean Airlines have to have a meeting with us, the Hotel Association, Chamber, and whoever it is, and listen to us. We used to have meetings. We used to have slight improvement through our advocacy. But now with this new GM that we have had here, it has been extremely difficult, or I would also say non-existent. So you need to listen to us. We have a flight that left is last night, early this morning, go to New York. The only reason why that flight came back is because the Prime Minister had to intervene. All our advocacy was not working. So you need to have that. We need to have increased flights on the air bridge, go back to pre-pandemic, including that midnight flight. Thirdly, the powers that be in Tobago have to look to see if it's viable to lease an aircraft. It was done already under Mr. Wilson's time. They had released 2 aircrafts. I'm not sure what the audit from those 2 aircraft looked like, but I could tell you this. During that time, there were no problems getting to and from Tobago. There was an ease in that situation. Mind you, it was that time when we had 80,000 foreigners and all of that. So it has to be a multi-pronged approach like that. Okay? Obviously, we have to watch at the funds and so on. But there has to be a new thinking. You have to look at Tobago in a different manner. You can't just say, well, that is Tobago, and you're going everywhere 5 times in St. Vincent. We applaud that, yes, but you are leaving the taxpayers, Tobagonians, who are taxpayers in this airline and shareholders in this airline, holding nothing. You see, and the situation is getting worse and worse. As you know, there's pressure times. Easter, Christmas, New Year's, July, August, weekends. In fact, almost every weekend seems to be a crisis on the air bridge. So it has to be a multi-pronged approach. But most of all, you have to recognize Tobago. There are problems here, and you have to have the will. That's Caribbean Airlines management, the board and the management have to realize that you have a problem here with Tobago and you have to sort it out. You have to make a priority. We are part of your shareholding. We are not begging.
Point taken there, Mrs. James. We thank you very much. So, of course, we have to go back to the things that worked in the past. You made reference to Mr. Wilson, and of course, I remember that period in time. So we have to revisit the things that worked, and we have to implement things that we believe will move us forward. That's what you're saying, right? So we agree with you here, because what we want, what all of Tobago wants, what all of Trinidad and Tobago wants, what all of the travelers want, is resolution. That's what we want. We want to ensure that the air bridge and the sea bridge as well functions optimally, so that we are able to access all that we need to access within the two islands, and also that our international guests can get here with the assurance that they are going to get back to their destination after. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we head on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Right. We have on the line with us also former government minister Stephen Cadiz, as we continue this conversation. A Caribbean airline woes. Are you there?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning
Good
and
morning
welcome.
to you.
Right, so we're continuing our conversation. Caribbean Airlines woes. You know, we've had this recent upheaval where we've seen flights having to be cancelled because of pilots calling off sick, and it has affected and impacted travel between the two islands. It has also impacted international travel. And so we have a situation now that, as my co-host has mentioned, has garnered national awareness, and it's now on a national stage and a national platform. We need to deal with the issues. We've spoken time and time again about the issues. We've spoken about how it has affected and impacted lives, travel, the needs, and even desires to cross both islands. What we want to talk about this morning is, what are the ways forward? What do we do? How do we resolve this situation? I'm tired of talking about this has happened and this has been impacted and affected. How do we move forward?
Yeah, I mean, an island like Tobago, the tourism product depends 100%, I would say, on airlift. Yes, there's some ease with the ferry, but airlift is critical to a tourism product. And if Tobago really and truly wants to benefit in no small way from tourism revenues, which obviously it does, not only the air bridge but the airlift into Tobago it has to be 110% at all times. You can't have people arriving, for instance, on a flight out of New York, going into Piarco to transfer to Tobago, and when they arrive at Piarco, for instance, what happened recently, I mean, that just kills it. And the reputation, there's a whole reputational issue that is going to be created there. And therefore, this problem is not a new problem. When I was in tourism, it was a problem. When I was in transport, it was a problem. When I was in trade, it was a problem. And here it is, a decade and more after, it's still a problem. With Cal has a mandate to provide an efficient air bridge to Tobago. Full stop. There's no question about that. And what happened the last weekend, really and truly, is, it just says that there is something drastically wrong with how Cal is operating and the management of Cal. To have a wildcat strike like that put tens of thousands of people in distress. People have paid their money to go to Tobago. People paid their money to go to wherever Cal is flying. So it's not to say that people are, hoping to get a drop with Cal. No, this is people's hard-earned money was put into the trip. And to have a wildcat strike like that is totally, totally unacceptable. I do understand that all employees, whether it is pilots or cabin crew or whoever, all employees have a right to have an issue with their employer, like normal, like anybody else. But I didn't think that wildcatting, a wildcat strike would have been part and parcel of the deal. And I think that the airline, the Pilots Association should really has to rethink what their position is going to be in the future, because that what happened there and the losses, not only to the Tobago tourism plant, but to the people going to Tobago. And then, of course, Carl has to then go and sublet aircraft out of the States, I believe, to make up the flight. So everybody lost. There's a huge, the tens of millions of dollars that was lost just on that one action just says that this cannot be. And I agree with you. What is the solution for Tobago? Okay, you have to have an efficient air bridge. What is that air bridge going to be? Cal recently have been advertising all kinds of new routes, but you don't have the aircraft to do it with, I would assume, because you're adding on routes, and the only way you're being able to add additional routes is by taking away routes from Tobago. So it's not to say that you have increased your fleet, you have increased the amount of pilots that you have trained flying on these aircraft. That has not happened. So you're depending on one source of support, which is from your pilots and your cabin crew, and also the same aircraft. So the same aircraft that are supposed to be flying, I don't know, maybe 12 times to Tobago, you're taking 6 of those flights maybe and sending them to St. Vincent. I see Cal now flying to Dominica. They're flying the ATRs into Guyana. So what is it? How you can't do everything, and you cannot be everything to everybody. But I do feel that the air bridge to Tobago is a critical, an essential service, and therefore Cal has to be very, very mindful of where their priorities are. And what has been happening recently, I would say that they have lost sight of that. They have taken it upon themselves to basically say, well, Tobago is Tobago, we could do what we want, but we want to go to more profitable routes. And I tell you something, the fares being charged by Cal to go from Port of Spain to Bridgetown, or Port of Spain to St. Vincent, horrendous. It's just unbelievable what you're paying. And therefore, Cal is looking as strictly as dollars and cents, and we can make a ton load more money flying to Barbados and St. Vincent and Grenada, which I don't have a problem with, but you cannot allow Tobago to suffer in the interim.
Former Minister Kiddies, we've heard responses from the Tobago House of Assembly indicating the suggestion that we may probably need to open up the market in terms of the domestic space. We've heard feedback even as early as yesterday from Minister Cudjoe and Minister Webster Roy, indicating that based on their discussions, they are in talks to ensure that there's some kind of rebate provided to those clients and those individuals who would have been affected under the circumstances. I want to get from you, having sat at the level of the government, what might be some of the specifics, recommendations that you would want to make, bearing in mind that CAL isn't an entity unto itself. There is a reporting line. And when we trace it right back, we know that the central government has a great say, or in fact, I should probably ask you to clarify that, having sat as a former minister of tourism and also within the cabinet here in Trinidad and Tobago. What's the real role of the central government? Let me start there.
Well, I mean, CAL being an essential service is supported financially by the central government. I mean, we know that. To what extent, I am not sure how far that has gone now. But between the ferry, the ferry service and the air bridge is heavily subsidized by the central government. So CAL is not in a position to just, change up their routes, the amount of flights going to Tobago, just like that. You have to get permission from the person who is financing you as to whether or not that is something that you can do. Whether or not that has been a discussion at cabinet level, I have no idea. I wouldn't think so, because I believe that the mandate for CAL is to provide the necessary amount of seats to and from Tobago on a daily basis. And for that, you're going to be subsidized. I mean, when during COVID, CAL was given hundreds of millions of dollars in subsidies to keep them flying, because obviously when the airspace was closed, I mean, that is death for an airline. So it's not to say that CAL is operating by any means on its own. They have as you say, they report to the central government because of the funding that the central government gives them. So maybe that is a question that the Chief Secretary or the Tobago House of Assembly should be asking the central government. What is the deal with CAL? Where is that subsidy going? Where is the Tobago subsidy going? Is it going to subsidize St. Vincent flights, Grenada, Barbados, Guyana, Dominica? CAL is now going into Dominica. How can you go and add Dominica and St. Kitts onto your schedule when you have made no provision for taking up the slack for Tobago?
Yes, exactly, and that's very important. You see, accountability, because there must be some accountability with the operations, which is something we need to consider and seriously get answers and, of course, repercussions and consequences for actual inaction, rather. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning on this topic. It's an ongoing conversation, and we're hoping, as I said, for resolution, because this cannot continue. It has gone on for too long, and too many things and people have suffered the consequences of these types of happenings. Thank you again, former Minister.
Well, I'd just like to say, just on leaving. It's very, very easy to determine what the seat capacity is going to be for Tobago. That is not rocket science, and especially on a long weekend, they would know way in advance what the seating capacity is going to be, and therefore you have to provide the aircraft. It is not rocket science of what they're doing. But again, we don't know behind the scenes what are the discussions and what are the decisions being made regarding Tobago.
Yes,
So
thank you so much.
thank you very much.
Thank
Yes.
you so much. So
Yes.
we continue the conversation at some point in time, but that's where we wrap this conversation right now. This morning, we've been speaking with Caroline Birchwood James, former president of Tobago Hotel Tourism Agency, and former government minister Stephen Cadiz on the Caribbean Airlines situation. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break before we continue this morning's show. And of course, we're asking you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
Are you flood ready? Review and update insurance coverage. Install floodgates and barriers. Create a family flood plan. An initiative to help people prevent, prepare, recover. TATIL, where people are people.
Jimmy's Holiday Resorts has 1, 2, and 3 bedroom, fully self-contained apartments located at the heart of Crown Point. Minutes walk to the popular beaches, restaurants, bars, and the airport. Enjoy our amazing amenities such as fully equipped apartments, complete with Wi-Fi, AC, TV, and a pool, and a mini-mart on the compound. Call 639-8292 or 8929. Jimmy's Holiday Resorts is your family's home away from home.
Put a smile morning, morning. Good
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates. I am Adana Kambi, and we continue conversations this morning as we speak with Mr. Alan Stewart, and he is the director of TEMA, Tobago Emergency Management Agency, and we're talking today about disaster risk management. Good morning, Mr. Stewart, and welcome to the Tobago Updates morning
Good morning,
show.
and good morning to your viewers as well. It's a pleasure to be back here once again.
Right.
Good.
So we're talking disaster risk management. Tell us, what is disaster risk management and what we need to put in place or look forward to, or what we need to have in place?
Throughout the world as it relates to managing disaster risk, the United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Risk Reduction consider risk management as it relates to disasters to be one that ought to be very comprehensive in nature. And it looked at the entire disaster management cycle. So when we talk about disaster risk management, we are not only looking at response, we are looking at the issues related to how do you prepare, how do you prevent, how do you mitigate, how do you respond, and how do you recover, or what some may consider to have rehabilitation or get back on your feet, things like that, or get back to normalcy once again. And these are the major elements that one must take into consideration when you're looking at disaster risk management. For us here in Tobago, we have been influenced by a number of mandates, some of which are regional, some are national in scope, and some are international recognized. As I pointed out, how the UN ISDR look at it comprehensively. And I recalled just before 2005, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, back at that time they were called CIDERA. They would have led the region in this whole concept of comprehensive disaster management. And I think it is very imperative that we as a nation embrace those concepts, because as we look at the emerging risks and the way in which these hazards are impacting our islands, and when I say islands, I'm referring to the whole archipelago of islands across the Eastern Caribbean, and what obtains as it relates to the impact with hydrometeorological events and the toll that they are having on small developing island states. You know, these SIDS are considered to be small island states, and therefore it's important that we continue to look at resilience as the way going forward.
Right, and I know we're talking about disaster risk management, but what are some of the things we term as disaster? What is a disaster? For those of our viewers who are, okay, so is it just hurricane, flood? What are we considering as disasters that we are preparing this risk management conversation about?
You would have heard me mention that I mentioned what I said was, I spoke to the hazards. In many times, persons confuse the hazards with disasters. Mm-hmm. Disasters is a result of the impact of the hazard itself. So one must be able to differentiate between the both. They present themselves in two types. One, you may have what you call anthropogenics, meaning therefore actions taken by human beings that result in a hazard impacting an exposed society. And these exposure, we are talking about our infrastructure, we are speaking about our ecosystem, our environment, we are speaking about our spatial development and where we built and how we built. And therefore, these exposures lend itself to the risk factors that we are now speaking about. So you have the hazard. The other thing is, what is these hazards exposed to? Are they exposed to houses that are not well built? Are they exposed to, or the houses, are they exposed to disasters that could, or hazards that could easily impact them? And as a result of that, you have a disaster on your hands. So in essence, a disaster is classified as the impact of a hazard upon which what is exposed to the hazard cannot withstand it, cannot recover from it properly, and therefore it overwhelm those persons who are impacted by it. So it's an emergency that goes beyond, as the old people will say, water more than flour. So if you have a situation like that and you cannot cope with it, where these shocks are concerned, then this is what is considered to be a disaster.
Okay, and so now we're planning for these disasters. How do we get ourselves out of them? Because in your preamble, you spoke about preparing for the disaster and recuperating after the disaster.
Yes. So there are 5 elements that one may want to lend thought to. One is prevention, or one is preparedness. For example, what we are doing this morning, we are preparing our population by way of education and providing information that person can make proper judgment and react. One of the most important things is to be well informed, where you understand the hazards which you are exposed to. And then you want to make sure that how you prepare through education, procurement of items, ensuring that families across the societies have an emergency plan, things like that, in terms of readiness for any eventuality. But apart from that, there may be issues that you can undertake. For example, your infrastructure. I always say the disaster management system is as simple as a story about the fox, was it fox or the wolf and the pigs? They build this house out of straw, and they puff and blow it down. They build it again. There was a repeat, and then they decide to build it with brick. And so there came the resilience. And that is the level that in all of these sectors that we speak about, whether it's our technological advancement, our utilities, these things have to be hardened where we can prevent these occurrences and prevent things from the impact of the hazards upon us, turning it into a disaster. Another crucial area that you may want to lend thought to in the disaster management cycle is mitigation. My simple explanation as it relates to mitigation is like how we use our roadways. For example, I think you have to be about between 17 to 18 years of age before you can drive on the nation road. Then we regulate how people drive on the road. You must drive on the left-hand side on the road. You give way to vehicular traffic on your right. So in instances where you cannot prevent an accident from happening, or the hazard from taking place in the form of MVA, you have regulation that regulate the way in which people use the roadway to reduce the impact of something occurring. And this comes through, again, through educational programs. So you cannot prevent it, you cannot stop it, but you can reduce the impact through legislative agenda, through policies, through things that you do that will reduce the impact of the risk or hardening of your infrastructure. And when we talk about infrastructure, it's not just about bricks and stone. We are talking about, more importantly to me, in this space, is we are speaking about things like our utilities. We have recognized over time that is our utilities hardened towards, in terms of that level of the infrastructure against the type of hazards they are up against. Heavy rainfall, wind type, things like that. So these are some of the steps. But outside of that all, you have the element. You may talk about disaster prevention. You may tell a person, the fire service could go around and talk about fire prevention, but a house will burn down, and therefore it requires a response. Response in the disaster management cycle is identified as actions taken before the impact of a hazard and immediately after. How do you respond to it? And it's imperative that as an island, as a country, as a region, that we have an effective response mechanism. And yes, there is a disaster response mechanism. We see it played out overnight where the Cabo Star ran into some problems. And I must say that, my heroes this morning is the staff members of the Cabo Star. I was very nervous very early this morning as to whether or not they would have been able to extinguish that fire, and they did. And therefore, they are our heroes this morning. They were able to respond effectively because there was some level of preparedness. There was some level of well-known standard operating procedures and protocols to follow if there is supposed to be and I heard the voice of the captain of that vessel, and he sounded very composed during the entire ordeal. And that speaks volume to our ability in some quarters to respond effectively. I think, in all honesty, one of the major weak areas in the entire disaster management cycle is that of the recovery effort. If you were to pay attention to what happened in 1997, the earthquakes, it took us a while before we could even have back a library. You recognize that? Our whole generation, the young men in my home, they did not experience a library. And therefore we have to speak to those issues. We look at the last year impact of the rainfall. There are roads within the 1 mile radius of where we are sitting that have not been rehabilitated. And therefore, it's a weak area in the system where we cannot get back to normalcy as quickly as we can, or we cannot rehabilitate or have reconstruction as the way in which. So these are the elements. And therefore, in closing, I would like to point out that it's important that we build back better. We build back stronger. We take into consideration the risk factors that are involved. The levels of probabilities is what triggers or measure or make that risk greater or higher or lower or medium term based on the levels of probabilities. It's like crossing the highway 2 o'clock in the morning and trying to cross the highway
4
8 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
The probability of you being knocked down is quite high around 4 o'clock if you don't cross properly.
That's right.
So these are some of the elements and the nitty-gritty of it and how we need to plan going forward.
So if I'm a good student, disaster risk management basically is assessing the possibility of a disaster.
Yes.
Preparing yourself for the outcomes that could happen, and also, if it should happen, how we rehabilitate from it.
Yes, how we absorb those shocks.
Right. And of course, we have to put some emphasis, as you mentioned, on rehabilitation, because there are things that still under rehabilitation right now. So we need to put some emphasis on that so we could move quickly and smoothly into restoring ourselves back to a good way, a good standard of living in comfort and safety.
Yeah, because we live in a climate today where the probabilities of reoccurrence of these impact, and it looks very shameful when you have been hit by the same, it's like a boxer being knocked down by the same punch over and over and over. It looks clumsy, So we have to be able to learn from our errors, and it speaks to resilience. We have to build resilience in the various quarters of our, as I mentioned, infrastructure, our ecosystems, our health sectors need to be stronger. A number of different areas have to be well thought out as to how we deal with these pending hazards that we are up against.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Stewart. We've been speaking with Alan Stewart, the director of Tobago Emergency Management Agency, talking about disaster risk management. And we've learned a few things, and we are hoping we can implement them and move into a safe space with quick rehabilitation. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break before we continue our show. But of course, we ask you to stay with us and to also share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be back.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to
Are
place.
you flood ready? Recycle and properly dispose of large waste. Avoid sweeping yard clippings or trash into drains. Plant trees to avoid soil erosion. An initiative to help people prevent, prepare, recover. Tatil, where people are people.
Summerama, real steam for the summer at standard. Is a dream for the summer. Dreamy, steamy, standard. What you have? What you have? All the best deals, no drama. Standard be beat like a hammer. Go tell your friend, tell your papa, tell your mama. We got more, we got more. Standards are what is searching for. Quality brand, discounts galore. New things for the summer, online in store. Summertime is here, so make the most out of it at Standard. Never beaten on quality and price. It's nice.
The best place to stay in Tobago is at Thorn's Place with rates starting as low as 200 TT. Call or WhatsApp 745-7306 or 682-8676. We are located uptown Scarborough, 5 minutes away from the port. Remember, at Thorn's Place, our aim is to make your stay safe and affordable.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Book your passage and come on over.
Tapicom. Welcome to the future. The only card you will need in a new world. Digital business cards. Safe, hassle-free. The future is here. Tapicom. New generation digital transfer. Digital time clock cards. Digital attendance cards. Air tags. Customized designs. Digital clothing tags. Digital pet tags. Tapicom. The future is here. Contact us today.
Are you flood ready? Monitor trusted sources for info. Wear protective gear when you clean up. Contact your insurance provider to assess the damage. An initiative to help people prevent, prepare, recover. Tatil, where people are people.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates. I am Adana Kumbi and I am speaking with Sherwin Allen and Kiel Baines, and they are committee members of Baines Ball Bash. And of course, we're having the second installment of this initiative, and they are going to speak a little bit more about it to give you some information and what to expect. Good morning and welcome to our program.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Right, so tell us about Baines Ball Bash.
Well, actually, Baines Ball Bash is a sporting event put on by the area representative of Bethel New Grange, Pastor Terence Baines. And it was somewhat to deal with, to foster the youths and to try to get some camaraderie around them, because that it is known that there are a level of, crime in the area of Bethel in particular, and we want to treat with that. And also we want to be good to know that at least that good stuff also comes out of Bethel. So it's not all gloomy and doomy in Bethel. And so we had it last year. It was actually basketball, netball, and football. However, working very closely with the area representative, he always believed that his constituency deserved the best. So we had put some added element to it this year. So this year we having a food fest, we having Catch the Pig, so we expand on it a bit because he always tell me that, that his constituency deserve the best, so we expand on it a bit. So I will ask Kiel to deal with the netball and football aspect of it, the netball and basketball actually.
Kiel, before you go to the netball and basketball aspect of it, I want to talk about Catch the Pig.
Oh, yeah. Well, Catch the Pig actually is that we will have this pig. We're not going to grease the pig as the norm. Mm-hmm. Because there are some concern about cruelty to animals and stuff like that. So what we're actually doing is that we'll be preparing an area. We're going to put a tap hole in or maybe a plastic on the floor. We're going to oil it. We're going to blindfold the person who will be participating in catching the pig. So you will have a team of 2 persons, and they will now have to depend on either the song where the pig is or maybe from the crowd. And so they will be given a particular time to catch the pig. However, whoever catch the pig, you probably release it. And then we will look at the person who catch the pig at the shortest period of time, and they will take the pig home with them.
Oh, so they get to take the pig home.
Yeah, the pig will belong.
Good initiative, good elements to the event. It brings that level of excitement and intrigue. So tell us about the signature events that you usually have on a day. You spoke about netball, basketball, and football. How do people participate? Is there like a registration? How many members per team? Where do these teams come from? Is it strictly for members within the community, in the area constituency? Tell us a little bit about the program itself.
All right, so the netball, basketball, and football requires 10 persons per team, each for netball, basketball, and football, right? It is not for just Bethel District only, but for anyone in general, because it's a friendly rivalry amongst villages and other districts.
Yeah, and apart from that is that we invited Nigel Tate, who is Assemblyman Nigel Tate, because we bound with Nigel Tate at Patience Hill thing. So we invite him. A majority of the team actually comes out of Bethel, the Bethel New Grange electoral district. But we invite Nigel Tate, to come and be a part of us. And also Mr. Niall George, who is also part of Bethel, is his constituency, so he will be participating in the football as well. But Nigel Tate will participate in the football and the men can cook competition.
Oh, so there's a cook competition.
There's a cook competition.
No, yeah. I like initiatives like this because, especially where you extend the invitation to other communities. And you said earlier in your introduction that you want to erase the stigma that these areas that are considered as trouble areas. And one thing I know to be certain is that sports and activities like this, they kind of foster unity, and they don't leave room for that type of negative behavior. They encourage people to bring their best behavior and, just to forget about the crime thing for at least, even if it's just for one day. And of course, the things that happen on that day, the relationships you form, because I'm sure there will be people who have not met each other before. They'll come together on that day, form friendships, relationships, and, healthy discussions thereafter.
Yeah, I think one of the things too is that giving them the opportunity to really put the energy in a positive manner. Because, there's a saying that, the devil will find work for islands to do. So we want to engage them as much as possible, keep them occupied, So maybe after a good football, a good netball or whatever, they probably get tired, they go home and sleep. So less time on the block,
That's right.
That kind of
That's
thing.
right. So what we want to talk about too is, when is this event scheduled for?
This event is scheduled for this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Starting time 4 p.m.
Okay, and this is, where's the location?
Montgomery.
4 p.m. on both days?
On Sunday, we would like to start the food fest at 3 p.m.
Right.
Yeah, because what is happening is that on Saturday we'll be having like the netball and the basketball, also the preliminary of the football, because there will be like about 10 teams. So we want to boil down to semi-final and final. So those 2 games will be played on Sunday. But on Saturday we will conclude the basketball, the netball, and also do the preliminary of the football on Saturday. And Sunday is when you'll be having the semi-final, the final, because as I told you, we have the Catch the Pig, we have a song off with these cars, these guys with these cars come, we will be having a song off. And we also have something in stock for the children. We have bouncy castle, we have cartoon characters, we have face painting. So, it's an entire day that you can bring out the entire family, and we want you to bear in mind as well, even the food that will be cooked on that day, on Sunday in particular, all those food will be given away free. And, Tobago men can cook. I think Nigel Tate sent in a challenge that he has never lost a men can cook competition. However, the guys in Bethel, because 3 out of those 4 teams actually comes out of Bethel, and they had access to put the 4th prize for Nigel Tate. Right? So you don't realize that there's a challenge. So you could anticipate good meal.
So Assemblyman Tate, the challenge is on. Bethel men think they can cook better than you, so you need to bring an A game. And before we wrap, of course, how do people register? And is there a fee attached to registration?
Registration for the games or $200. You can contact Caddy at 660 4794.
Okay.
660-4794.
And Sherwin
at 463-8087.
Right. And when does registration close? Because I know the event is this weekend.
Well, registration for actually the cooking is already closed. We still have it open, and maybe until probably the end of the day, maybe tomorrow the latest, for the football and the basketball. Right.
Okay.
We also want to let people know that the first prize for the football is 5,000. Second prize is 3,000. And for the netball and the basketball, there will be 3,000. First prize, 2,000. Second prize.
And the price for the men can cook?
Well, that price is a surprise.
Okay.
We don't want them
so
to
let's
know
not
exactly.
let the cat out of the
We're
bag.
not
Right.
going to do that. And also, you recognize that we just install a walking strip
Yes.
around the field. So there will be some novelty. There will be some walking race, walk and wine. We just ask people to come down and have a fun day.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's on this weekend at the Montgomery Recreation Ground. Baines Ball Bash 2, lots of novelty events, lots of prizes to be won, and free food at the end of the food fest on Sunday afternoon. So for further Sunday afternoon, sorry. So for further information, of course, you contact Mr. Sherwin.
Alan at 463-8087.
Correct. And it is happening this weekend. Thank you guys so much for being here and for sharing this information with us. Exciting times are ahead. And of course, the weekend is going to be lit, as the young people say, with Baines Ball Bash 2 at the Montgomery Ground. This is where we end the morning show on Tobago Updates. I am Adana Kambi. But before we go, of course, we are heading on over to GMT, and we are asking you to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Wedding 2023, and I have with me 2 visitors to our beautiful island of Tobago. This is Vintage and Naraya, and they are from Bermuda. I just want you to tell us, how have you been enjoying the Tobago Heritage Festival?
I feel that it's been very eye-opening and a great experience to experience how your culture is set up. And it's been very nice. Everybody has been welcoming and very inclusive.
One of the best trips I've taken so far. I just love it here. The music, the food, everything is just nice. The people are nice as well.
I mean, I saw you in the back dancing.
Yeah.
So we are here with Lyndon Lashley at the Mariah Old Time Wedding. We've reached down to the recreational ground where the wedding reception takes place. Now he has been involved in this festival for over 5 years. Lyndon, what keeps you coming back?
Just the love of the arts. Just the love of the arts. We see in art heritage is something that needs a lot more young people in it. What other way to get more young people in than to have those who are just bridging that gap between the old and the young?
And you know, I must ask, how are you enjoying this year's festivities?
Ooh, boy, watch now. If Olia was not here, Olia miss out. If it wasn't here, you miss out.
They definitely missed out.
That alone says everything. If it wasn't here, you miss out.
Beside me is Assemblyman Area Representative for Mason Hall Mariah, Assemblyman Ian Pollard. Now, Mr. Pollard, you have spoken about monetizing the Mariah Old Time Wedding. Do you mind going into details for us at this time?
The Village Council of Mason Hall Mariah need to come together to have certain aspects of the Heritage Festival monetized here so that those persons from the cruise ship could come and visit here and get some aspects of the Heritage Festival on a 1 hour, 1 hour and a half stop, because it's high time we start to monetize the business of Heritage Festival.
And how have you enjoyed today's festivities?
Oh, it's been great. I'm glad to see that the young persons are intricately involved, and this is how we pass on our history.
How are you enjoying the festivities?
Beautiful. I've been to several of the shows, as many as I could, and I mean, I like it. I love it. The Mariah wedding is especially nice because I like the dances that they do and all the traditions coming out, and especially the fact that so many of the dancers, participants are so young. It is so good so that they can carry on the tradition.
Is it the first time Mason Hall New Edition folk performers is a part of the production?
Yes, because Mason Hall New Edition used to be just dancers, but now they asked me to come and be the artistic director, so I do the music and the movement. The group rarely belongs to, the leader is Mrs. Erlene Crooks Ned, and she invited me to be a part of this group. I'm actually from Mason Hall, eh? Yes.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and
Welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region, with the perfect conversations to complement your morning routine. I am Candace Jackson, and let's get started with the news in 90 seconds.
The news in 90 seconds is brought to you by Flow, working for you on Tobago's newest fiber network.
We begin this morning with news of a fire on board a Cabo Star vessel. According to reports from passengers, the fire happened shortly after its departure from the Scarborough port around 11:30 p.m. The fire occurred in the engine room, causing an electrical system failure, leaving the vessel in darkness and stationary. The Coast Guard reached the vessel at 2:15 a.m. to assist. Crew members successfully contained and extinguished the engine room fire according to emergency protocols. No injuries were reported among passengers and crew. Evacuation will occur once safe. The incident's extent and damage is currently under investigation. Now, MP for Tobago West, Shampa Kajo, stated that despite calls for a dedicated Tobago airline, past attempts at establishing one have been unsuccessful. She addressed this matter during a press conference yesterday evening. Kajo emphasized that even though the domestic inter-island travel routes might not yield profits, they remain a crucial service. She mentioned that the government stepped in swiftly to put a stop to the pilot's industrial action, ensuring that they return to work promptly.
Ongoing discussions are taking place with Caribbean Airlines regarding the provision of refunds and credits for international travelers. These efforts are aimed at encouraging more travelers to return to Trinidad and Tobago. And finally, the West Indian Tobacco Company Limited and the Seamen Waterfront Workers Trade Union have agreed to a 6% wage increase. The collective bargaining agreements were signed originally on July 18th at Whitco's July 28th, at Whitco's office in Champlain. Over the 2-month period, negotiation teams guided by Whitco's Leah Ishmael Lynch, Luke Gittins, and SWWTU's President General Michael Anisant and Branch Chairman Ricardo Hackett deliberated. These agreements encompass the years 2023 to 2025. Whitco Managing Director Raul Glynn emphasize the dedication to equitable remuneration, transparent talks, and improved perks, showcasing the company's competitive stance. And that concludes your news in 90 seconds.
Tobago, after freeness is more speed and better TV. Get a free Samsung smartphone and free installation, plus 200 megabits per second, Paramount Plus, and more for only $299 with a select 200 plan from Flow. Visit online at discoverflow.co today.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago, viewers. Now, the conversation keeps going where Caribbean Airlines is concerned. And we heard from both MPs. And we heard from Ministers Ayanna Webster Roy and Minister Shapa Kajo, Tobago East and Tobago West MPs yesterday evening. Now, I mean, one thing that came out of that conversation, and I mean, by the way, I should introduce my guest before I go straight into my question. We already started talking, so it feels like we've already introduced him. But good morning and welcome to Mr. Ashwood Jack. And he is, of course, a former minority leader within the space. How are you?
Good morning, Candice. Good morning, all the viewers on Tobago Update. I'm fine and I'm happy to be here this morning.
Great. So first of all, I mean, actually, before we get into the question, what is your initial reactions to all that has happened since Sunday, Monday?
What it does is that it highlights the fact that all over the world, pilots take industrial action. I mean, you've seen it all over the world, but the problem with the Tobago scenario is that Caribbean Airlines is the only carrier that goes between the islands. So when there's an industrial action, whether it be ground staff, whether it be pilots, it shuts the communication between the islands down. Also, the majority of, even if the flights coming from international, there are very few flights that come straight to Tobago. So there's a connector out of Trinidad. So again, here we have a situation where even if you get into Trinidad to transit to Tobago, that becomes another problem altogether. Mm-hmm. So I think that is what the major issue that faces us in Tobago, the monopoly of Caribbean Airlines. And so any problems with Caribbean Airlines or its ground staff, Tobago is going to be suffering.
And Tobago continues to suffer after several decades.
Yeah.
But
for as long as we have had airlines between the islands. You know, from Titas, I mean, you're right, I don't know about Titas, right, all the way to Biwi, to...
I know it from Air Caribbean.
Right, no, there was Caribbean Airways.
Yes.
But there was Titas first. And so this is a situation that is not new. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of trying to travel to Tobago for Easter. For as long as I have known myself, people have been having trouble to come to Tobago for Easter. And it seems to be a problem that we cannot solve, or we don't have the desire to solve. And so I think that what Sunday showed all of us is just another situation where having one of anything that is essential could create a problem for you.
Certainly. Now, we had the ministers yesterday come out and say, well, they very much defended Caribbean Airlines, even though they acknowledged that, you know, the air bridge, there could be some improvements on the air bridge. They defended the actions by Caribbean Airlines. They defended that the way that they've been managing the routes and saying that, you know, we shouldn't, first of all, let's go with Minister Kajo saying that opening up the air bridge to other airlines is not a good idea.
I try to rationalize why it's not a good idea. Because nobody have come up with a good rationale as to why it's not a good idea. Tobago is not the only small island in the Caribbean. It is not the only small island that have a twinning situation in this sovereign democratic state consisting of two islands. This is our uniqueness. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting a different result.
But are we doing the same thing the same way? Because
no, I think we're regressing.
But yeah, because the reason why I brought this up, because before COVID-19 we had about 24 flights. Now we only have 12.
What?
So we're not even doing the same thing.
No, we're regressing, right? And I'm glad you raised that, because before 2012 we were told that it was impossible to run more than 12 to 14 flights. In fact, you only had additional flights when this was a big weekend, when there were a number of persons from this sister isle who was in Tobago that needed to go back, and so they put on additional sections to take them back. And that still happens. Island Crushers Weekend, if you could call it that. There was a situation where additional flights were put on because there were important people children coming to Tobago, ministers children, senior police officers,
all the business
people children was coming, and they added additional flights to accommodate them. So it is not that it can be done. Secondly, I heard, I think it's Senator Hizop saying at the question of the tourism on the Joint Select Committee that he came up on a flight and there was nobody to go back down, so he didn't think it wasn't profitable. The question that he did not answer is, was that flight announced? That flight was not announced. That was a flight put on to accommodate the children of those people. So nobody knew there was a flight, so you couldn't book it. So you hear some of these things and you wonder. But let's get back to the genesis of this thing. We were told for 50 odd years that no, you couldn't get additional flights late into the night in Tobago. In 2012, I approached the government a Tuesday morning at about 7 o'clock. I came from Trinidad on Monday. And there were a number of things happening in this space. And it was coming to a carnival time, so it was close to February. And I was coming to Tobago. And in coming to Tobago, there were a number of young people that were on the airport. They were very, very loud. I mean, young people. They were in a very festive mood. And I asked them, I said, you know, one of them recognized me, and he came and said, Mr. Jagger. And I said, hey, where are you going? Where are you going? He said, we're going to Tobago. And he said there was a Marshall Montano concert in what is now called the Parade Square. And he was going to this, they were coming to Tobago to go to a Marshall Montano concert and to go back the next morning. And I said, but that is strange, you know, Marshall have a concert or performs in Trinidad almost every night for Carnival. And they said for security reasons, their parents would not allow them to party in Trinidad. Of course, it says something. It was people who were at a certain economic status. While we were there were two persons, or two people, I should say, that went to do dialysis. And they were on the airport, and they couldn't get a seat to come to Tobago because of all that was happening. And then there were a number of young people who came in who were going to school in the afternoon in Trinidad, and then had to travel back. And they're all complaining about the same thing, that once they met that 8-something flight, that was it. They either had to sleep on the airport. I mean, you could imagine somebody coming from doing dialysis, uncomfortable as ever, because, you know, when you're dialyzed, people react differently to it. And because they're not patients in the hospital in Trinidad, so they have to come back to Tobago. And I couldn't understand it. And I said, you know, this is a strange one, that we continue to suffer the same thing. I took up my phone and I called the then Prime Minister. I said, Prime Minister, are you aware that Trinidad secedes from Tobago 9 o'clock every night? And she said, Ashwood, why you have to use such colorful language all the time? I said, because it's true. And I explained to her what it was. She said, why don't you talk to the Minister of Transportation? At the time it was Devant Maraj. I didn't get Devant until the next morning, the Tuesday morning. I called Devant and I told him the exact thing I told the Prime Minister. He said, oh God, Ashwood, all the Tobagonian colorful. But I explained to him, and he said, you know, let me talk to my boss and try to get it solved. While we were talking, he said, you set me up. I said, why? He said, your boss called him. I'll call him back. Prime Minister called him and said to him, call Ashwood. He need to talk to you about something. He came back on the phone. He said, you talk to the boss before you talk to me? I said, yeah, I go to the head of the fountain. I said, I was trying to get your last. I didn't know you have some missed calls. He said, yeah. Immediately on that Tuesday morning, we agreed to meet the Thursday morning. He said, I was minority leader. He said, let me contact the Tobago House Assembly Executive Council, and I will get back to you on the time and place of the meeting. He did contact them. The time and place of the Ministry of Works building. It was 10 o'clock on the Thursday morning of the same week. Right? Of course, the then Chief Secretary, Mr. London, asked him who will be at the meeting. When he told him Air Transport, Caribbean Airlines, Airport Authority, the ministry and stuff. And of course, Ashwood Jack. And he said, what is Ashwood Jack doing at the meeting? And he said, well, no. Ashwood is the person who brought it to attention. I am not anchorer with the problem. And so, because Mr. Jack brought it to my attention, he is going to be invited. He's invited to sit in at the meeting. And he was told that the THA executive would not be represented because I had no right to be at the meeting. I was not the executive. Anyway, the meeting took place without the executive, no representative of the executive council. It took us less than 2 hours to do what could not have been done in 50-something years. And let me tell you why. There was the will to get it done. I am hearing people talking about not being able and blaming and say Caribbean Airline this and Caribbean Airline. Caribbean Airline is a wholly owned company of the government, which means they have two things, a minister and they have a corporation soul. I have seen, if Prime Minister could have made a call and said, fix this, and we got it fixed in 2 hours, that could not have been done in 50 plus years. Why can't the Prime Minister of Tobago today make a similar call and say, fix this? And we went in, and just before you go, we went in, my proposal was not to run until 2 o'clock in the morning. I went into a proposal that says, let us do a 24-hour. Of course, we debate, we discussed, and we came down to running 2 o'clock, which was not the ideal position for me.
But it worked.
But it was much better than we were.
Many of us, I included, used that flight quite a lot when you had to go and do something in Trinidad, it finished later in the evening, or you're coming from an international flight, and by the time you clear customs, it's quite 10 o'clock in the night or something like that. So it worked.
So all those arguments is what we use because the Miami flight comes in at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
And so we use those arguments to say, listen, you don't know, sometimes when, especially young people go and shop, when they come home, they do have a cent.
Yeah.
And so they want to come home. Sometimes people just excited to meet home. There were too many things that we were saying, hey, this is how we need to deal with it. People meet me up to today and tell me, we can't understand why we're going back to the 8, 9 o'clock. I can't understand. No, I was
And it doesn't work for business.
It doesn't work for anybody. It doesn't work for students. There are people who leave Tobago at 4 o'clock in the afternoon after work and go to classes in Trinidad and have to cut their classes to get back to the airport in order to get to Tobago to go to work the next day.
Because oftentimes classes would finish at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
And you have to travel to the airport. So I'm saying, anybody who tells me that it's just the pilots, no. This is more than that. This is a whole lot more than that. This is a lack of will and sometimes almost punishment. Because how can you tell me? I remember when this thing came out, and we need to be honest with ourselves. When the issue was first negotiated, the then leader of the PNM in Tobago, not leader, sorry, the chairman, Mr. Wilson. If you go back to the Guardian, I was trying to put it up this morning, but I didn't have enough because only last night I was asked this. We wrote articles on 2 or 3 Sundays saying that it did not make any sense. Why were we doing? We were wasting money. So when the government pulled these flights, it didn't surprise me because they did not want it in the first place.
So in other words, are you trying to say that they used COVID-19 experience as an excuse to pull it?
As an excuse. Because we knew all over the world we wasn't flying. But what is curious about this is that after COVID-19, Tobago became the go-to place. If you look at all the social media, and I know you young people are better at social media than I am, Tobago is now the go-to place for a whole lot of young persons in Trinidad. When you have more people interested in coming to Tobago, you have less access to Tobago. And you make the excuse that, I think I heard the minister say yesterday, and the reason she was given is that the COVID, and they look at the numbers in the night, and I mean, BS. It just doesn't make any sense. If I was not a minister, and it took me 2 hours to get the government to change a 50-year-old policy.
And you were minority leader
at that point.
minority
leader, right? Yet you're telling me that this to put on even some additional sections for Carnival. The minister tell you, give me a month.
I was just about to ask you that. What's your reaction to that? That you need a month? I mean, and Carnival, I want to juxtapose it as we knew that these were the dates for Carnival since last October, since the conclusion.
Day of the conclusion of Carnival, there were T-shirts and announcement made called Save the Date. So everybody who was interested in this place knew the last weekend in October was going to be Carnival. Okay. Today, what, the 25th or 24th?
24th, yes.
The 24th. If you take a month from, let's say Monday, that was on the 20th, it means that the time that you might get an answer is September 20th, 1 month before Carnival. What about how many people could properly book, make arrangement, even buy costumes? Because people buy costumes and things in advance.
Yes.
And so when somebody tells me that, somebody said, give me a month to look at something that could take place in a day, let me tell you this. And let me tell you why. I know this seems to be more than curious. This is political punishment for Tobago. And let me tell you why. I used to travel to Tobago at least 4 or 5 days a week because I worked in Trinidad. And every night, when I come to the airport, it was easy to come, everybody knew me. But sometimes there were so many people on the airport that sometimes we had 120 people on standby.
Yes.
I was then the leader of the TUP and a member of the People's Partnership. So I took up my phone on a number of occasions and called the line minister, said, Minister, I am on the airport. There's 120, 130 people to be going and trying to go home. And he said, Jack, give me a couple minutes. Because it became such a staple that when I come to the airport on those bad days, Caribbean Airlines staff will come to me and say, boss, you see what's going on? Make a call now. And 15 to 20 minutes after that call is made, I will get a thumbs up from Caribbean Airlines staff. They got the go-ahead. They will be putting on a jet. And whichever minister will come back and say, you owe me, we just fix it. No, that is minutes. And somebody come to tell me and to tell Tobagonians with a smile that it's going to take us a month to discuss what we could do. I mean, this place is amazing. It is amazing. for the life of me, I cannot come to terms with why people cannot divorce their politics from their responsibility for Tobagonians who elected them. People have to understand, it is not every issue you will see eye to eye with your organization on. Your first responsibility is to the people who elected you. But I guess a lot of people's first responsibility is to their position.
And I want to talk a little bit too about, let's discuss the financial side of things, right? Because the excuse that we hear from Caribbean Airlines, the excuse we hear from Minister Imbert, because he was the one that said also that, Caribbean Airlines is losing money with the air bridge, and that's why we needed to, have the change fee, the $50 change fee that's supposed to fix so many problems, but we still haven't seen the fix for that problem in terms of the reservation system. We had to increase the flight fare, but what about the financial impact of the air bridge? And let's weigh this in the conversation.
We all agree that Caribbean Airlines is not charging the commercial rate.
Mm-hmm.
We agree with that. No PTSD bus charges the commercial rate. You know why?
Because it's a service to the people?
It's a service to the people. And so when the excuse is that we can't put more flights because not making profit, then stop run public transport. There are too many essential services for Tobago that resides in Trinidad. And let me tell you how crazy this place is. If you try to change the directors of a company, it used to take you about an hour. If you go to the office in Scarborough, it used to take you about an hour. And you walk in and you get it changed. We have been trying to change spell directors for almost 4 months. Every day is something else. And then they tell you, we don't issue numbers. The numbers have to be issued in Trinidad. We can't do this. And now we have gone full digital. And I thought that you will have a better service. You have a worse service. So if you want, you have to go to Trinidad to meet with somebody to fix this essential service. According to what happened to you, from a medical point of view, you have to run to Trinidad. There are so many things that you have to go to Trinidad to fix. If you have to go internationally, according to where you're going internationally, you have to go to Trinidad to take a connector flight. As we saw evidence on Sunday, there was one lady almost in tears talking about her child having to get to Jamaica in order to do orientation the Monday. Couldn't go, and they were told the next flight is in September the 3rd. But let me tell you why this is such an annoying thing for us to be going on last Carnival. There's what we call a direct flight from New York to Tobago. And last Carnival, there was not even additional direct flights or additional seats available. But worse than that, there's a quota for persons who can come off in Tobago. And the rest is sold to come off in Trinidad. There were Tobagonians and persons who were coming to Tobago for Tobago Carnival. That when the quota was finished, was forced to buy a seat to come off in Piaco. When they got to A.N.R. Robinson International Airport, they had to sit on that flight. They couldn't come off. The flight had to take them to Trinidad. And then they had to take a Caribbean airline flight from Trinidad and come back to Tobago. It cost them more both ways to go to the direct flight, the one stop into Trinidad, and then you have to pay to come to Tobago. When it's time to go back, they have to do the same thing. They have to go to Trinidad and catch the flight. The flight then comes to Tobago, sits on the tarmac in Tobago. The other passengers come on the flight in Tobago and then go from A.N.R. Robinson to JFK.
That's really crazy.
That makes sense.
But I mean, I don't know. This whole situation, it is quite baffling to a lot in the public.
No, it's not baffling.
I'm not
baffled by it. What I'm seeing is a deliberate attempt to keep Tobago in a certain kind of place. And, and I hear people asking about tourism arrivals and additional. How do they come? How do they come to Tobago? If you have 12 flights for a whole day, down from 24 to 12, It's an indication that we don't want you in Tobago.
Mm-hmm.
Not even the domestic flights. I was speaking about the then chairman of the PNM, who Mr. Wilson, Neil, that says, oh, this is a waste of time. Yet, in the budget of 2012, 2013, check it out, there was a boast that there was a great increase or a marked increase in the number of persons coming to Tobago as a result of the same flight they say they didn't want. And it's written there.
Yes.
As a result of this flight. Now, it says that a wise man seldom changes his mind. A fool never does. So I give Mr. Wilson marks for being wise. He changed his mind. But we have seen the effect of that on the Tobago tourism arrivals, local tourists. How can we use COVID as an excuse to stop those flights? And when more people want to come after, because remember, there's a shortage of foreign exchange. There are a number of things. So people will normally fly up to Grenada, fly up to Miami, have now seen Tobago as, hey, and Tobago is as beautiful or more beautiful than almost any island in the Caribbean.
But they are being discouraged.
That's the thing. So they want to come, but they can't come. I'm trying to go to Toronto today for a meeting. I can't get a flight.
Well, sometimes, you know, I mean, and that's the other thing that a lot of people don't understand. I mean, even after how many years have we been talking about this whole situation, it seems as though the Trinidad doesn't even understand us in Tobago, just needing to be down in Trinidad just for a few hours
They come
to get something
Tobago
done.
for vacation. We go to Trinidad sometimes for health, for business, for a number of things. And so the only time you hear outcry is when they can't come for vacation. And you can't blame them because they don't face it on a daily basis. But policymakers have to understand that they make policy for both islands.
Yeah.
And once it is your responsibility, then there's nothing that we can do. And this again comes all the way back as to the importance of autonomy. You know, there's a reason why the airport is named Anna Robinson International, right? It is that we'll never forget. Yeah, for people who don't know, the airport got its name because of Ashojak. It had nothing to do with anybody else. I looked at it and I said, airports all over the world represents their icons. They immortalize them. Reagan International in Washington, JFK in New York, the Chile Jigan, the Grantley Adams. You name them, the Michael Manley International. And I said, but why can't we name the airport after Anna Robinson? I called the Prime Minister. And that's the thing, I take up my phone and call the Prime Minister. I said, Prime Minister, I want to change the name of the airport in Tobago. She said, to what? I said, Anna Robinson International. She said, good idea. I said, but let me take it to the House and let the Tobago House of Assembly debate it. That is my respect for the House. When it comes, I'm just clearing the way that you all don't object. Took it to the House. The House said, no, maybe something else, not the airport. Eventually, they set up a committee. The committee came back. Less than a week after the Assembly sent that to the Cabinet approved the name of the airport to Anna Robinson. And Anna can get a flight by This is crazy.
Now, where does this leave us in Tobago? Now, you brought up the issue. I mean, it boils down to autonomy and that sort of thing. But what can us in Tobago do now about, if we can do anything about this whole situation?
And that's the problem. There's strength in numbers. When you have Tobagoans defending why flights shouldn't come to Tobago, that is where the division starts. Regardless of your political affiliation, you are affected by this. Whether it be you, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your cousins, you, the individual, might not be affected for long because of your clout. But every day, people are affected by this. Almost every day, somebody tells, I'm trying to make a booking, I can't get through. And of course, you know, sometimes you make a booking, or attempt to make a booking, I have no seats.
Yes.
When you get to the airport,
there are seats available.
Endless seats available. But of course, you don't have to pay additional $50. Because if you have a ticket, you have to pay additional $50. So
And that's supposed to fix the situation and no fix at all.
No, it's not. Or you just give them additional revenue. But as I said, at the end of it, Caribbean Airline is a fully owned company of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And once you own something, you can give the direction to which it goes. And if Tobago is seen as important, there must be some special consideration for Tobago. If you look at what happened in the last couple of weeks, about 2 months or so, you notice that Caribbean Airlines is now going off to St. Kitts Nevis. They're going to here, they're going. And at the same time, when you're going to all those places, you're cutting back on the number of flights that come to Tobago. So yes, you are boosting the tourism in those areas. But yes, time in the tourism.
And that also leads to the problem that the pilots are expressing, and the reason why they took some sort of action on Sunday, because they are saying you all are you're expanding, but you're not expanding us.
And, I saw somebody who wrote on Facebook this week, pilots making $20,000. What more they want? And I was like, whoa. This is what we come to? Do we quantify people by just a figure? Do we understand that every time you sit on that plane, that your life is in the hands of these people? You really want to get them annoyed? These are the best people in the world to get annoyed. And we saw what happened. I mean, the pilots executed a clinical stuff. Hardly anybody knew. Only their family members and stuff knew that, hey, we're not going to work today. And so everything shut down. And of course, the government knew go-to is to file an injunction. They did it to the teachers, and they did it to the pilots. And I guess anybody else who says, we want to stand for our rights, they want to file an injunction and say, no, go back to work. Can you really force people to give their best? You could force them to show up. But can you force them to give up their best when they do show up? And that is a question we need to ask.
And we'll find out more when we come back after this break. So viewers, don't go anywhere.
Waiting for CXC results and wondering what's next? Or maybe you're looking to switch careers. Learn a skill to jumpstart your career at the NESC Technical Institute. Get qualified for jobs in the energy and industrial sectors, or even start your own business. Choose from automotive, electrical, instrumentation, drilling, welding, fabrication, AC refrigeration, IT networking, and more. NESC diplomas are gate approved. Classes begin in September. Visit nesc.edu.tt to apply.
If you see or know about a crime, report a crime safely and anonymously. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime. You can play your part safely and anonymously. Report a crime. Earn a reward. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime. Be a hero. Champion. Fearless citizen. Be a crime stopper safely and anonymously. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime.
Are you looking for a place for your loved ones? Heavenly Care welcomes you. Located at Northside Road opposite Massey Motors, we offer a variety of services. These include doctor visitations, social activities, geriatric care, and much more. Contact us at 277-9595 or visit us at Northside Road opposite Massey Motors. At Heavenly Care, compassion is at the heart of all care.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denasia.
All right, welcome back to Good Morning Tobago. Viewers, we are continuing our conversations this morning with former minority leader, Mr. Ashwood Jack, as we discuss the things coming out of the situation with Caribbean Airlines. Now, I want to just spend some time really talking about the reasons why Tobagonians need to travel at the drop of a hat, the reasons why Tobagonians find themselves sleeping at the airport, the reasons why we are unfairly blamed for showing up without a ticket and then expecting to get on a flight, because that's a narrative that's coming from government ministers. Even our Tobago MPs are saying it to us that, we shouldn't just go and show up without a ticket.
And my question, and I think it's Senator Hizop here.
Well, yes, Senator Hizop as well.
One of those comments was what I'm saying. I wonder how often he went to Trinidad for what? Because according to what you do, there are times that you have last minute calls and you just have to run to Trinidad for our meeting, a 2-hour meeting, and somebody will looking out there will ask, but there's Zoom and there's this. According to the nature of the meeting, your physical presence is required.
Yes.
And I am supposed to be at a meeting today. I do have a flight, right? And this is not something that I could have anticipated a week, 2 weeks ago. This is a last meeting. You need to do this, you need to do that. But there are a number of other things. Health. Until we have all the facilities in Tobago.
And we probably never will.
And we never will, because almost anywhere in the world, even people in Trinidad, that is why they buy special health packages to allow them to fly out of Trinidad and Tobago to go to Miami on Airbus, a medical Airbus, stuff like that. So we'll never have it. Our population size would not make some of those things profitable. And so the easy access becomes important. So we travel for that. Very rare a Trinidadian will fly to Tobago for something like that, except there are some massively long lines. And they say, if you register something like this in Tobago, because I've seen it with licensing,
yes,
and stuff. People come to Tobago and renew their license because they say it takes too long to get it done in Trinidad.
And they too just need to come up for a few hours and go back down.
Right. So there are a number of those kind of things that happen. Right? Sports people. I used to be a national track athlete. You have to run on a Sunday. But you have to go down this Saturday, spend the Saturday night, it costs you money and all that, in order to run for 48 seconds. And so once, and then you have the same thing with national footballers, you have a number of people, you have schools going to visit industry that goes down in the morning, comes back in the afternoon. You have so many of these things happening. We spoke about classes, people going down for exam. So for Tobagonians, it is not a choice. For persons who just doing a vacation, I choose to vacation in Tobago. And of course, we want them to come to Tobago to vacation. So we want them to have access. But when you don't have access, as we're seeing now, it affects the hotels, the guest houses, the restaurants, everybody's affected by it.
And there's also this notion that, people who vacation need to plan. And while that is true, we see all the time, when you just look at the way how the world operates and even the way how people move around the world, sometimes it's literally they see something happening in another country. If they have the means and they just jump on a flight. And are we supposed to discourage that just because we need to plan in advance?
When I was a young man, I remember I used to get up on Friday morning and decide I'm going to Barbados. And finally or something and get to Barbados, right? So much so that when I was living in Mason, one time I came back after a 7-day vacation, there was a club next to the house. And when I came home, I said, Jackie wasn't here? I said, no. He said, well, leave the door open. For 7 days, the doors were just open. And so that they thought I was somewhere wrong. But how do you tell someone, according to the pressures they're under, and as you rightly said, if they have the means, I just need to get away. But that is the exception rather than the rule. But to tell, I don't know if people, according to the means, could plan a vacation a year There's so many
Sometimes
changes.
you just
The
have
world
a
doesn't
weekend
operate
and
like
you
that
just want to
anymore.
go.
The world doesn't operate like that
Yeah.
anymore. The world doesn't operate where you plan a vacation a year in advance, 5 months in advance. The world have come to the place where they tell itself, things are available. Let me move. For example, if you're moving around the states in the United States, you use Southwest, you a number of them. You just turn up.
Mm-hmm. And you know, people often knock the expenses of flying, like maybe across America and Canada. But when you look at Europe, those flights are very cheap. All over Europe, it's so easily to get from one country to the next in Europe.
But you see, to all that is fine, right? But my thing comes down to how do we solve this problem in Tobago? And the way to solve the Tobago's problem is allow Tobagonians to solve the problem. Listen, there are so many little things that you have to wait on the government in Trinidad to do. And it's not that you want to, you know, and it comes back to even the company that I've been asked to chair the board.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, something that could be done in one sitting, taking you 6 months. And it's like, a license takes 6 months. Approval for this takes 6 months. And you just don't have a choice. It has to be done in Trinidad. But when all that happens, what it does, it also stymies Tobago ability to create more employment on the island, to create better facility, better attractions, even for tourists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I went to, for the first time a couple of months ago, to the Bioilluminance.
Yeah.
I had the experience. And when I saw that, I said, you know, this is interesting. The number of persons will travel just to see this, because I think we have in Peru. It's not.
It's just a few countries around the world that have it. Yeah. Or at least in the numbers that we have it here in Tobago.
So we have so much things that we are now trying to bring on stream to make us an attraction. But the biggest problem is to get to Gilligan's Island. One flight coming, that's it.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, I was saddened to hear about the accident aboard
the Cabo Star.
The Cabo Star, because that has consequences again.
Man, that's how we get our food.
And that is why, you know, I heard one person in a meeting one day saying that we should just import this thing, import food. And I said, if you want to become a slave, the people have to feed you.
Hmm.
And so not only food, our industry comes from that. Almost everything that comes from there. And so it's like, whoa. When you think one thing is another. And so I really don't know how anybody could agree that the airline is good and that we can't do any better. It's crazy that I know so much things that's happening in Trinidad and Tobago that not making money, that they're doing in Trinidad every day, but they do it because they say, okay, this is the best thing for the people of Trinidad. And I'm saying, in terms of the inter-island situation, it has to be fixed, because we're stopping people from traveling, we're stopping Tobago from doing business. And if you're doing that, then give us the autonomy, give us the power to make laws, formulate and implement policy, to raise our own capital. Because, of course, you know, the THA can't borrow more than 300 million.
Yeah.
And we, of course, I had to get the minister's permission.
That's definitely another discussion.
So you can't even go in that direction to say, look, let's get some money and partner with somebody to. No, because the minister will say, hey, you only 300 million. Oh, this is not important for us right now. I don't think we should do this. It's crazy.
All right. Well, Mr. Jack, we will unfortunately have to leave it there, but I just want to thank you so much for being on with us and having the discussion with us this morning. But viewers, don't go anywhere, because we have a bit more coming up for you after the break.
I say, thanks a favor to wake up and hear my neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never.
Jimmy's Holiday Resorts has
Hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denasia.
Let's go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor. So wake up and hail me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong. We are beauty, we are power. We are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers. We are melanated ones. We special and there is no denying. Tobago is number one. I am you and you are me. Together we stronger. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Tobago.
Back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are now being joined by Mr. Philip Edward Alexander. You know him as the leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party. Good morning and welcome to you. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning to your viewers and listeners. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right. So, we just had the conclusion of the local government elections. And I just want to get from you, what's your view on your party's performance at that election? And, what are your views just going forward?
We set out to use the local government election to further build out. Unlike the THA election, which is basically one corporation or two as opposed to what we had to fight. We are a younger party and it takes a while to build out. Again, I want to use the PDP example of being able to build out quickly in Tobago, but they had a disastrous showing in Trinidad. It takes a while to build out and become a fully national party. And we used the local government election to further build out the party, get many more people to know the party, to establish ourselves in every nook and cranny that we could. And we did that. We came away with a surge of support and hope. It wasn't the results that we wanted, but the entire election results was terrible and disappointing as Trinidadians seem to be slowly but surely losing faith in the electoral process as party after party fails them. But we are doing our endeavor best to hold to our mission of informing, educating, and empowering the people of Trinidad and Tobago and giving them a proper option. So we plan to use the experience, we plan to use the opportunity to catapult forward. We're not stopping, we're pivoting to launch all of our 39 shadow MPs who will be on the ground and fully 141 councillors, shadow councillors, to work within the communities. Even though we're not elected, we want to be serving and giving people a better alternative to the PNM and the UNC that they've had.
All right. And then, looking forward now, are you guys still going to go strong into the general elections? Even though you didn't get the support you anticipated, are you going to continue building the party
That's
and
the purpose of the
continue
39.
advocating for that change?
Well, I guess you missed what I just said. We are launching 39 shadow MPs to work on the ground, to build relationships, to establish the party as one that delivers. We're also going to be launching 141 shadow councillors. That requires massive machinery. We'll be operating as a shadow government. So yes, all of that is to establish us as a real and credible alternative for 2025. Not one of those parties that just show up at election. The Philip Will Fix It campaign was massively successful. It took us to the level that we got to June 6th. And by August 14th, we were a national party. Yes, we have every intention to fight all of the seats in Trinidad and we will know what is going on in Tobago. We're having discussions with certain people, but we understand that to be truly represented in Tobago, you have to be working with Tobagonian nationals to build the party there. If we're not working with established political parties in Tobago already, we will be building a truly Tobago arm of the Progressive Empowerment Party.
Now, what do you think resulted in just that low voter turnout that we saw? Because we just had about 30% voter turnout in the local government elections, and none of the political parties were able to, instigate the public enough to come out and just cast a vote. How are we going to go? How are you going to go about, changing that going forward?
What caused it is that the political parties keep letting the people down, and all of the coalitions have failed to live up to their promises. The experience with Watson Duke and Farley and the PDP, people put so much hope in that, and then that just blew up and melted away. So much bacchanal, so much sex talk. People got disgusted by it and lost hope in the process. It damaged all new parties, because all new parties that saying we will be different, they're saying, yeah, and Farley and Watson said that too. So that is the cause of it. How do we fix that? We fix that by staying the course, doing the work. We have to take the licks from that experience, from the people's partnership that let the people down. We have to take all of that licks, the experience people had with Tobago organization and the people. So I'm putting this in context for you to understand the Tobago part of it, why Trinidadians and Tobagonians are so fed up with politicians. I am a voter, I am a citizen, and I'm only in politics because I'm fed up with politicians. I understand exactly how people feel.
Mm. So, but I mean, this is something you've also been speaking about for quite a few years, about how people have become disenfranchised with politicians. But it's just, no matter how much we speak about that, and even no matter how much we hear from yourself and from others within the space, just the differences that can be made towards governance, how governance should be, it just doesn't seem to be enough to change the way how people feel. And they go back and they seem to be either not voting or voting for the two major political parties.
I want to tell you, Trinidad and Tobago is a massively corrupt country. The average person knows that they should be wealthier. The average person knows that they should have more. The average person could point out the rogues in Tobago who, together with politicians, stole their money. They could point out in Trinidad, they could name the rogues in Trinidad who, together with politicians and businessmen and lawyers and accountants, what I call the contract mafia, that have stolen their money and ruined their country, destroyed it. The quality of life in Trinidad is terrible for a country that had $3 trillion in 62 years. You contrast and compare that with Norway, that created a heritage fund that affects every stock and share traded on the planet. Norway's heritage fund is built up of the same funds we had. Norway's heritage fund sets aside $250,000 for every citizen upon retirement. In our people on retirement, they get a $3,000 that they have to beg and fight for. And all of that has people upset, has people fed up of politicians, because no matter who they put in office, and I want to use the example of Farley again. I had the greatest of hope in Farley because I know the criminally corrupt in Tobago, and I know Farley have to know them too. And before the election, I fully endorsed the PDP, and I said, I hope that you're hitting the ground, giving us a proper forensic accounting, get back our money, jail the corrupt members of the Tobago House of Assembly, jail the corrupt businessmen, go after the man that have the 62 sports cars driving around Tobago like a fool, go after the people who built Milsherv, go after those. Let's show the people that politicians are not all just there to feather their own nest and take them for granted. That's what I plan to be, and I hope that the new version of what came out of the PDP could hit the ground running and do that, because if it doesn't, it looks to everybody like more of the same old dog and pony show we had before.
And now, just as we're getting ready to wrap the show, because we're unfortunately out of time, but I just want to give you just a couple of minutes to just address the people of Trinidad and Tobago, as even I mean we're still dealing with the last bit of putting together the local government and so on, and just moving ahead.
Everything that we've ever experienced, we failed before we succeeded. Even when we were learning to walk as people, the biggest faith a human being will ever have is learning to walk, because the mechanics of walking is throwing yourself off balance and trusting yourself to catch yourself to do it again. Trinidadians are human beings. They deserve better. I want them to know that regardless of our past experiences, there is a better day coming. We must not lose hope. We must continue to look for change. We must continue to jettison the old and the failed and look for better. We could have a better day and a better life, all of us, if we keep focused. Sometimes you have to lower your head, bite your lip, take what is going on now. They have a saying, until better can be done, let the worst continue. But don't stop looking for that time when you could have a better day and a better life. And yes, right now in this world, the best way to do that still is by voting democratically. The Progressive Empowerment Party is going to fight very strong. I am going to be in touch with Farley, and I'm going to get a commitment from Farley that he is going to do the job that he said that he will do, where the audits and the recovery of the money is concerned, and I will further my endorsement or I will withdraw it. I want Tobagonians to know, because we have a large following in Tobago, that the Progressive Empowerment Party has not abandoned you. We will be there on the ground, either with Tobago parties or working with you directly.
All right, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Philip Edward Alexander. We're certainly looking forward to speaking with you more as the political landscape develops here, both in Trinidad and Tobago.
It's always enjoyable speaking with you. Thank you for accommodating me. Thank you for accommodating the mishap with us missing the timelines this morning. Thanks very much to your viewers.
That's fine.
Have a great day.
You too, Mr. Alexander. All right, viewers, well, that's how we're going to have to wrap the show this morning. Thank you so much for being on with us. And yeah, have a safe and wonderful day. And don't forget, we have our news at 6:30, as well as full disclosure tonight at 8 o'clock. So you're going to want to look on for those.
Wake up with Candace and Denise.
Let's go. It's a brand new